and the door code she gave me wasn't for me. By the time I realized the door code wasn't meant for me, I'd already used it twice. I manage risk for a living, which is another way of saying I make money telling people what could go wrong. The joke is that I'm awful at applying it to my own life. When Myra texted me a 6-digit code with a winking face and a pin for a brownstone in Cobble Hill, I told myself it was a small rebellion against boredom. I told myself lots of things. Most were technically true in the way a forged signature is technically ink. Myra was the creative director at our parent company, a magnet for the sort of attention that makes rooms behave. My first meeting with her had taken place in a boardroom designed to make sincerity sound expensive. She spoke in verbs, not adjectives. She looked at the slide deck I had spent a week preparing and said, with a smile sharp enough to cut, "You're very good at making danger look polite." On the way out, she touched my sleeve lightly, the way people do when they want to leave a fingerprint without smudging the glass. "Tell me the real version sometime," she said. We started with coffee in the atrium and graduated to long late afternoons in anonymous hotel lounges that smelled like citrus and justifiable decisions. We were careful for a while. We were also liars, but well-mannered ones. I was engaged to Hannah, a mezzo-soprano with a laugh that could warm a room faster than the radiator. We were 4 months from a family-sized ceremony, a tasteful celebration featuring a string quartet and vows that promised to keep their heads. Myra's boyfriend, Tomer, existed in the way an alibi exists: referenced, understood, seldom seen. The door code arrived after a presentation that had gone so well it attracted envy. Myra sent the 6 numbers as if they were a birthday wish, then added, "There's a spare key in the planter and a bottle of Sansera in the fridge. Pretend the city made you do it." The brownstone was the kind of place you only rent if your apartment needs to be a statement. Plants with confident leaves. Brick walls that had negotiated with time. The bed in the second-floor bedroom faced a window that made the neighbors across the street into an audience. I had never been good with audiences. We told ourselves our rules would save us. Nothing that could be caught on a camera. No names louder than a whisper. No details we wouldn't want read back to us in court. We kissed with care and heat, drew a line with our hands and kept our balance on it like gymnasts. I learned the warmth of Myra's skin where her shoulder met her neck. She learned the particular exhale I make when I'm about to stop being reasonable. The second night, after the bottle, was an interesting memory and the city had collapsed into muffled sirens. I lay on the rug and stared at a skylight that showed a rectangle of indifferent sky. Myra draped herself over my chest like an ocean pretending to be a blanket. "You're better when you're ruining something," she said, like a compliment. "I'm better when I'm honest," I said, because lying to her felt like redundancy. "I just forget to practice." We were supposed to be meticulous. We were supposed to be smarter than the story we were writing. The detail that undid me was small and stupid, a post-it on the fridge under a magnet shaped like a lemon. It said, in neat block letters, TUES 913,726, "Door reset for cleaners. Don't forget." The code she had sent me, a reset, a schedule, a reminder not for me but for someone who lived here without needing to gloss it. The realization arrived gently and then all at once. The code hadn't been a secret she'd made for me. It had been a tool temporarily aligned with our recklessness. The intimacy I'd wrapped myself in, a 6-digit confession, was just infrastructure. In my line of work, we call that mispriced risk. I didn't say anything. I made a note in the private part of my head where I store the things that keep a man up at night. I kissed her, slow and grateful and doomed. I let the present win. The next morning, back in the apartment I paid for with prudence, Hannah asked me if I'd picked up her dress from alterations. I had not. She held up 2 fingers, the small peace sign she used when she was teasing, and said, "You get 1 pass. I'll use it now." "I'll pick it up today," I promised, and then we kissed like we had rented each other for a while longer. I told myself that promise counted toward my ledger. At work, our CFO, a man who wore his conscience like cufflinks, called me into his office to talk about reputational hazard. A columnist had written an op-ed accusing us of laundering attention. "We need something that looks like humility," he said, "but smart humility, like we meant to be caught." "Contrition with math," I said. "Exactly," he said. "You've got a gift for it." I wrote a statement that made us sound like people who learned quickly and cared deeply. Myra signed off with a flourish and the comment clean, true enough. Later, she sent me a photo from the brownstone of that lemon magnet holding up a new list. "Dinner party, candles, ice." She captioned it, "We need a better hiding place." "We need a better version of ourselves," I texted, and put my phone face down like it was misbehaving. The dinner party happened on a Thursday. I had promised Hannah I would be home. I had also promised myself I would stop breaking promises that were not made to me. Halfway through the CEO's toast to nimble integrity, my phone buzzed again. A photo from Myra of a table set for 6, gold flatware gleaming like mischief, and in the corner of the frame, a pair of men's shoes aligned too perfectly to be hers. "Whose?" I wrote, which was a stupid question dressed in a small word. "Tomer," she replied. "He's early, he's always early." Tomer. There he was, suddenly in the frame of my mind. A man who did mornings, who owned the kind of sweaters you can only buy if your weekends are photographs. He had become a rumor to me because rumors are easy to manage. The shoes made him inconveniently physical. The code followed me through the rest of the night like a smell that wouldn't leave. I avoided Myra for 3 days. Hannah noticed in the way people notice when silence changes temperature. We went to her final fitting for the dress I'd almost forgotten. In the mirror, she was a study in balance, a woman becoming more herself as the fabric found the right lines. She squeezed my hand. "It's okay to be nervous," she said. "Fear is just a sign you're on the right hill." "I'm not afraid," I lied and then amended. "Not of that." "Of what then?" she asked. We looked like the opposite of a lie. "Of being the kind of man who remembers people by their door codes," I said, and she laughed, rich and trusting, and I almost told her everything on the spot. Instead, I told her about the column and the humility with math, and the way our CFO uses the word optics like it belongs in prayer. She kissed my cheek. "Marry me," she said, and the softness in her voice was my undoing. That night in my kitchen, I wrote an email to Myra that began with "We need to stop" and ended with a string of backspaces. I deleted it. She wrote first, an hour later, "Tomer found the lemon note. We need to talk." She added a pin, not the brownstone, a bar in a hotel that existed to let people lie softly. I went because that's the kind of man I had decided to be. She was in the back booth, the kind of red leather that polishes confessions. She wore a black blouse and a mouth that had practiced staying neutral. She slid a napkin toward me. On it, in Tomer's handwriting, a 6-digit code different by 1 digit from the one she'd sent me. 7 where there'd been a 6. "He changed it," she said. "He's not sure if I'll notice." "He wants you to ask," I said. "He wants me to explain the wrong thing," she said. "And he wants to hear the right thing anyway." "What's the right thing?" I said, though I knew. "That I love him," she said. She looked at my face the way you look at a painting you know you shouldn't buy. "You do," I said. "I do," she said. But I also love the version of me that can do what you and I do without being punished for it. We sat with that, two people trying not to drink. She leaned forward and put her hand over my wrist. "You think the code was for you," she said softly, "but I gave it to myself. I wanted to see if I could be the person who can live with it." "And can you?" I asked. "No," she said clean, and the word made the table between us feel suddenly blessed. It should have ended there. We should have paid for nothing and walked out better. But we kissed, because we're human, and the kiss tasted like regret wrapped in clove. We kept it brief enough to pretend we had learned. 2 days later, Hannah's sister threw us an engagement party. Fairy lights. A rented courtyard. Everyone saying the word forever as if it were simply another plan on the calendar. I found myself under a fig tree with our head of HR, a woman whose job requires her to know when people are lying to themselves. "You look like you're negotiating with an invisible judge," she said. "I'm bad at parties," I said. "You're bad at pretending you'd rather be somewhere else," she corrected. Hannah tapped a glass with a fork and delivered a toast that made her mother cry and my father tell the same joke he always tells when he's proud. When she finished, she looked at me like a person looks at a horizon they intend to walk toward. Somewhere in the crowd, my phone vibrated. I ignored it. After the speeches, after enough hugs to make my ribs complain, I checked it. A text from an unknown number. 6 digits, the original code, a lemon emoji. Then, from Tomer, "I believe this is yours." Beneath it, a photo, the brownstone door, and in the reflection of the glass, the faint outline of the man taking the picture. He had a runner's posture and calm shoulders. He had also signed his name with the gesture. The rest of the night felt preposterously bright. I pretended my throat didn't close. I pretended I wasn't counting. I helped carry folding chairs and acted like a person who knows what to do with endings. When it was over, when Hannah had fallen asleep in her mother's guest room and I was alone with the blinking of an unframed television, I wrote a message to Tomer. "If you want to meet," I typed, "pick the place." He chose a bakery at 7 in the morning, a place that smelled like intention and butter. He wore a gray hoodie and the kind of expression men use when they have decided to be kind, because punishment would be boring. He ordered 2 coffees and slid one to me. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I'm here because the wrong code sometimes tells a better story." "I didn't know it was the wrong code," I said. "You knew it wasn't yours," he said, not unkindly. "But her code gave you something you needed." I didn't argue. He looked at his hands, clean, well used. "I met Myra when I was someone else," he said. "I was chaotic. She taught me to choose. She tells me I taught her to be steady. It is possible we taught each other how to lie beautifully." "She loves you," I said. "I know," he said, "but love isn't the only thing people want to be good at." We drank coffee like adults in a city that forgives nothing and forgets slowly. He said, "I changed the code because I wanted to see if she'd notice. I sent you the old one because I wanted you to know I noticed." "I'm getting married," I said, and even as I said it, the future adjusted itself by half a degree. "Then be a person who deserves that," he said simply. He stood and left his cup and our failed war on the table. I went home and told Hannah everything. Not the hotel bar's red leather. Not the exact way Myra's breath stutters when she decides to stop. I told her I had broken the outline of us and wanted to repair it honestly. I expected the slam of a door. I expected opera. I got something worse and better. A long quiet where she held my face in both hands and searched for the man she wanted to be in love with. "I can marry a person who made a mistake," she said finally. "I can't marry a person who needs it." "I don't," I said, and it surprised me to learn I might be telling the truth. We postponed the date. We started from a smaller circle, the kind two people can stand in without tripping on arrangements other people made for them. I sent Myra a note that wasn't a victory lap and wasn't a benediction. It said, "I hope you find a code that belongs only to you." She wrote back, "I hope you do too." Then she changed her number, or I changed my willingness to use it. Months later, Tomer and I nodded at each other on a sidewalk outside a run club. The city had wintered and come back different. I passed the brownstone, and the lemon magnet was still visible if you knew where to look, holding up a grocery list so ordinary it felt like grace. Sometimes when the apartment is quiet and Hannah is asleep with her palm open on my chest, I remember the 6 digits and what they were good for. Not the door, not the bed, the lesson. A code is a promise to a lock. The only promises I'm interested in now are the ones that move because we do. Risk doesn't vanish when you choose well. It just changes shape. I still make money telling people what can go wrong. But at home, I try to practice the other half, nomming what we'll do if it does together. I keep our passwords on paper in a tin Hannah's grandmother used for flour, the least modern thing we own. The tin lives on a high shelf, reachable only if you stand on a chair and mean it. The other night she asked for the Netflix login and I handed her the tin. She smiled, opened it, and pulled out a folded scrap I'd forgotten I'd tucked there the week I moved back in. On it, 6 digits. The old code. She raised an eyebrow and I laughed, truly laughed, and took it from her and tore it into 4 pieces, then 8, then small confetti that fluttered onto the counter like a paper storm. "What was that?" she said, amused. "A story that isn't mine anymore," I said. We swept it up together and the broom made a sound like relief. Outside, the city practiced its sirens, and somewhere behind some door, a keypad waited for a hand to decide it belonged. We turned off the lights and let the room be dark and honest. We climbed into bed and chose again the very ordinary courage of staying.